There's a dark legend in Indonesia about a forbidden ritual that grants eternal youth. The ritual requires placing a newborn baby on an altar, chanting an incantation, and then brutally killing the infant. Afterward, a golden needle, which absorbs the child's suffering, is inserted into the center of the forehead. The result is eternal youth. However, what no one knows is that the ritual carries a dangerous cost. If it ever backfires, the consequences are severe. Over 30 years later, the woman, now 70 years old, still looks younger than her own daughter. But her body is frail, lying in a vegetative state, unable to speak. Her children, who were cast out of her home as children, came to visit her upon hearing of her worsening condition. They brought their own children to see her one last time. Both kids held their grandmother's hands, pressing their foreheads against her palm. But when Anne took the old woman's hand, something unexpected happened. The grandmother suddenly gripped Anne's hand tightly, causing Anne to jump in surprise. After struggling to free herself, the two children retreated to their room. But when Anne entered her room, she was shocked to find her younger brother, Hanif, was missing. She called out for him but got no answer. Worrying for his safety, Anne started to search for him. Suddenly, she heard strange noises coming from behind the door. Anne, annoyed by her brother's mischievous antics, went to complain to their mother. But Hanif, always playful, wasn't intimidated and continued rocking in the chair in their room. The next morning, Hanif noticed that his toy was missing. He pulled Anne from their bedroom and led her to the living room. But there was no sign of it. Just as they were about to give up, Anne heard the sound of a toy coming from the grandmother's room. Hesitant but curious, she finally entered the room and bent down to look under the bed. Sure enough, the toy fire truck was there. As Anne reached for it, the grandmother, who had been motionless on the bed, suddenly collapsed onto her. She began to convulse violently, and screamed for help. The Kadarl siblings rushed in and managed to lift their grandmother back onto the bed, but she continued to twitch uncontrollably. The housekeeper quickly turned on a gramophone, and as the soft melody filled the room, the grandmother slowly calmed down. Just as Kadarl was beginning to relax, something terrifying happened. His mother suddenly sat up and spat in his face. This bizarre occurrence made Kadarl realize that no ordinary doctor could cure his mother. They needed the help of a renowned local shaman. When the shaman arrived that evening, the grandmother was still twitching. The shaman approached the bed and began sprinkling sacred water on her. With each sprinkling, the grandmother would writhe in pain. As the shaman chanted curses, the lights in the room flickered in sync with his incantations. Then, unexpectedly, the grandmother reached out and grabbed the shaman's neck. The shaman ordered Kadarl to stab the fruit on the table, and to everyone's shock, blood spurted out. Every time Kadarl stabbed the fruit, the shaman was able to extract a golden needle from the grandmother's face. When all the needles were removed, the once youthful grandmother aged before their eyes, her appearance deteriorating rapidly. She soon passed away on the spot. The shaman explained that the golden needles, called curse needles, had been slowing her aging process. However, death is inevitable for all mortals, and no one can escape the natural cycle of life. The shaman warned Kadarl and his siblings that their mother's body could not be buried in the ground. It must undergo a water burial in a mountain cave pond, and the burial had to take place 7 days after her death. During this time, Kadarl and his siblings had to guard their mother's body carefully. Though Tali had once resented her mother for sending them away as children, now that their mother had passed, Tali found herself more sorrowful than anyone else. The following morning, according to local custom, Tali prepared to sprinkle water, infused with flower petals, on her mother's body. However, just as she and the housekeeper were about to pour the water onto her mother's back, they heard the voice of their mother urging them to leave. Startled, Tali dropped the body, thinking it was just a hallucination. But later that evening, as she sat by her mother's body reciting prayers, she heard the voice again. Convinced this time that it wasn't a hallucination, Tali mustered the courage to uncover her mother's shroud. To her horror, her mother's ghost appeared behind her. The housekeeper, seeing this, assumed Tali was simply exhausted and urged her to get some rest. Later that night, Tali's eldest daughter was woken by strange noises in the hallway. Driven by curiosity, she got up and opened the door, but saw nothing. When she returned to her